What do you do when your colleagues become your enemy? In today's episode, our guest breaks down her insights on Sham peer reviews and the 4 articles she's published about them. So listen in.
Hey, this is Brad Block, host of The Physician's Guide to Doctoring. This is a personal and professional development podcast for physicians where we have experts on the show that try to teach us everything we should have been learning while we were memorizing Krebs cycle.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Physician's Guide to Doctoring. I am your guest host, Dr. Amna Shabir. And today we have a very special guest, Dr. Tracey O'Connell. Dr. O'Connell is a self-described recovering physician who expanded her career in radiology to being an educator, speaker, and coach, fostering positive self-worth and sustainable well-being with teens, physicians, and LGBTQ+. She's a certified facilitator of expressive writing and Brene Brown's Shame Resilience programs. Welcome to the show, Dr. O'Connell.
Thank you, Dr. Shabir.
I am going to read a paragraph of one of the recent articles that you wrote on Sham peer reviews, and then we're going to dig deeper on that topic. Sham means something that is not what it's purported to be: bogus, false, to falsify, present something as the truth. What's ironic is that we have invested so much trust in the institution of medicine that we inherently believe it will care for us too. We believe we'll be compensated and safe forever. I remember my own parents telling me to go into medicine. You'll always be needed. You'll always be able to get a job. But this is no longer the case. Sham peer reviews are keeping trainees from graduating, leaving mid-career physicians scrambling to find work, and academic superstars bargaining for pardons, all in the midst of massive doctor shortages. Tracey, can you please share what prompted you to write these articles on Sham peer reviews?
Well, of course, it's a personal story, and I've signed a non-disclosure agreement. There's things that I can't fully share, but I will say that it was personal experience that led this to be something of importance to me because I experienced a sham peer review myself. Ironically, I didn't know that's what I had experienced because when it happened, I didn't have the words for it. And over the years and the years that we've known each other, I have done a lot of education of myself and now with others around resilience, around gaslighting in medical culture, around corruption in medical culture, around the lack of emotional intelligence in medical culture. And all of these really culminated into or emanated from my own lived experience. And about a year and a half ago, I joined a group called Just Equity, which is a nonprofit organization that's physicians from all different disciplines that have had some kind of injustice happen to them in their career. And it's a place for peer support. And in that grouping, I've just been exposed to a lot of people who come to that group for free, anonymous, confidential support. And I've just heard so many stories similar to mine. And since I've written these articles, I've had so many people reach out to me about the same thing happening to them. And so once I had a word for it, sham peer review is not a new thing. It's actually been around for quite a long time, as has peer review in medicine. But I just think that this concept of sham peer review, friends of mine who've even seen this have never heard of it. And it seems like something that there's a lack of awareness around unless it's happened to you. And then it becomes all-consuming.
Wow, there is so much there. The first thing I want to highlight is what you said with regards to language. We don't have language to describe what's happening. And when I looked at your articles, I said, hold up, what is a sham peer review? And when I started reading one article after the other, things started to clarify. And it was more of, oh, so that's what that was. That's what this other human disclosed in me that they were going through. As you help physicians, I coach physicians. And as people share what they're going through, especially when I'm working with early career clinicians, you already are so on edge in terms of imposterism, in terms of everything else that's going on. And you're so eager to please, and you want to put all your evidence-based knowledge that you just studied for the boards in action. And then on the other hand, you're called into a place where let's have a conversation starts. So I just want to first thank you for putting an actual term into mainstream world out there for somebody to actually describe what they're going through.
You're welcome. And I also think there's still a lot of misunderstanding about it. It's funny, I know friends of mine who have seen it maybe say they read it, but didn't really read it because their response to me makes me know that they still don't really know what I'm talking about. And so I think it's going to take some time for the vocabulary language to include this. And I think that also people think that it's rare. And in medicine, we have so many red flags, so many things we're heightened awareness around or hypervigilance around. And like you said, it's been about training. It's been about being correct, getting the right answer, not hurting anyone, all the things that we should be focused on. And as you read in that first paragraph, thinking that we've invested all of this in our own safety, I think to being a safe doctor, to practicing medicine carefully, and also to not hurt our patients. One of the articles I wrote was, why is there no malpractice insurance for this? Because there's all these safeguards in place to protect us from when we accidentally hurt a patient or something happens where we misdiagnose, there's some red herring or something happens. But I don't think anyone ever imagines that one of their own colleagues would turn against them. We've all experienced a malignant attending or the hierarchy of what size coat you're wearing, who's your superior. But I don't think we ever imagined that our credentials wouldn't be enough to protect us from someone just slandering our name or reputation or really performing character assassination on us. And there's really no protection for us in that regard. Like you can have tons of malpractice insurance to protect you from a patient or a patient's family slandering your name or saying that you did something wrong. And then we've got malpractice to protect us. But there's really nothing currently that protects us from this happening. And I think what's really weird is that actually the incidence of sham peer review went up during the pandemic. I think at a time where there was more chaos and people wanting to use this as an opportunity to eliminate someone they didn't like or use this as a chance to raise their own stature or status in the hierarchy. So it's something that we need to be on alert and aware of.
So let's break it down a little bit more, Tracey, for anyone who hasn't read the article, who is going around blissfully unaware and some actually going through it, or others who have gone through it and just don't know what was done to them. What is a sham peer review and how do you know it happened to you or is happening to you or could happen to you?
Peer review is a part of medical life that we're all familiar with and has been standardized. And there's a lot of history to peer review. And I think people are used to it when it's time for them to be credentialed at a new institution. It's something that supposedly occurs in a lot of medical institution bylaws will say it occurs at a certain regular basis, or when the Joint Commission comes to assess an institution, a healthcare facility. And so people think peer review is just something that you go through, and it's done in good faith, right? The purpose is to make sure that everyone is providing upstanding care, that people have periodic assessment of their skills and that they are up to snuff. I think the goal of peer review that's in good faith should be to make the doctor a better doctor and to make them a better colleague and to help them be a better physician to patients. Like the whole thing is meant to be to assure quality. And when you add the word sham, what that is when someone's reputation is taken down for non-medical reasons or for personal reasons, for I just don't like you. We don't see things the same way. You do things differently than I do. I just don't like you. I don't want you around. I would rather see you be gone. I'd rather have a vacancy and actually be short-staffed than work with you anymore. And so very rare will someone come out and say that, right? Because that would seem unprofessional or unkind. So it doesn't come out that way. It comes out even in circumstances where, let's say that there is a staffing shortage or there's a funding shortage, right? A practice is losing patients and they don't have enough revenue coming in to keep all the practitioners employed. Rather than saying up front, hey, we have to make some staff cuts or we're really sorry, but this is where we're at. They go about it in a surreptitious way to undermine the person's character and make them think that they did something wrong. So it can take the form of it's come to our awareness that you have not been doing quality work or someone filed a complaint about you. And the thing is, when you start to ask questions, what was said, or can you show me evidence, or what does it say in my file? There isn't anything. Someone is set up in a situation where someone intentionally puts them in without the right equipment, so that then they're frustrated. And then they say, where is the special instrument? And it's not there. And they know that's going to be a big deal. And they put them in a situation where people are on alert to, if this person explodes or uses a tone that is not kind, then they're going to get infraction and we're going to file an HR complaint and they're going to be eliminated. And it's what's not surprising, I'm sure, to listeners, just because most injustices occur this way, is that it happens much more often to women, to people of color, to marginalized groups, people on the LGBT plus spectrum of different identities, gender, sexuality, orientation. And often it's just out of the blue. Like things have been going fine and you thought you were doing a great job. There's no data or evidence that you haven't been doing a good job. It's just a very sudden, unexpected call in of, hey, we need to have a meeting with you after work today. There's no time to prepare. It's you have 2 weeks to leave, or and if you ask questions, there's no legitimate answer. And you feel like there's something, it's really about the emotional experience too, of feeling like disoriented, unstable, confused, gaslighted. There's a real disconnect between reality and what you're being accused of. And then that leads you into this sort of spiral of then, of course, you're going to be more paranoid and your performance will decline. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will.
The maleficence is so obvious. The fact that we are already contesting our worthiness on a consistent basis. Are we doing enough for our patients? Are we doing enough for our families? And use the word disorienting. This is exactly the word that I would use for all the clinicians that I have helped coach who've gone through these similar experiences without having language to support. And I just don't understand what I did wrong. The patients love me. The staff loves me. And all of a sudden I was called behind these glass doors and I was handed a piece of paper. And when I dig, I can't find data. I can't find evidence. So when somebody finds themselves in the middle of this situation, what are some of the steps that they should immediately take? I loved everything that you had outlined in the last article. But what if you find yourself in this situation? What are we supposed to do?
I think the first thing is to believe yourself. Like, it's easy to say I'm being paranoid. It's also easy to say that because we've been led to believe that we need to just keep a low profile and not make waves and this will pass, be very cooperative, go along with it. I think the first thing and the really sad thing is that we want to go to people we work with to support us. We want to go to HR. We want to go to the medical executive committee. We want to go to these systems that we believe have been set up to protect us. But unfortunately, time and time again, because those groups typically support the institution rather than the individual, they are going to, because medicine is now a corporation. It's ironic, right? Because in corporate America, I'm sure that this type of thing happens. And I also know that when you hear about friends that are in the pharmaceutical industry or at work for some tech company, that you hear there's layoffs, right? And everyone's aware that that something's shifting and that we're going to have a real change in the staffing or someone new is taking over. And so people are aware they're disappointed and go through all the emotions of unpleasantries around that. This is something where instead of people coming out and being upfront with it, there's an undermining to it, which makes you very paranoid, and also there's an undermining of trust. And I think the big thing is you really can't trust your colleagues at this point, even people that you really want to trust, even people that you really have always turned to or felt like you had camaraderie with or felt like they were your good friend. You have to go outside the medical system and you need to seek a lawyer immediately. And which is something that people don't want to do because we've been conditioned to believe that lawyers are dangerous because we're afraid of malpractice. But there's a different type of lawyer. You want to seek out a healthcare lawyer, someone who is familiar with healthcare law. Unfortunately, there's not a ton of these people out there, but they do exist. And you want someone who is outside of your work environment to keep you safe and sane so that you don't do what you alluded to a minute ago, start to spiral and believe there's something wrong with me. I did something wrong. What's the truth? What are people saying about me? Because you start to discount, which we're unfortunately in medical training and medical culture conditioned to do, which is to put ourselves last. And so we believe that fault must be within us rather than in someone else's perception, or rather than believing and discounting the people we work with or the institution we work with, or we believe that we're nothing without those people. So we will be complacent. It's hard for me to talk about one thing when I talk about this because I think of so many other things, but I've seen this happen to people in training. I've also seen it happen to people at the top of the top, people with so much grant funding, primarily women, people of color, or people who are from foreign medical graduates, people who have any little thing that someone can just have a personal gripe or not want to see that person succeed, right? And it's often really successful people that this happens to, because someone else doesn't like to see them succeeding. So what's ironic is it happens to people often who are really successful and really bright and really have a lot to contribute to the medical world and to patients. And they can still be discounted or have a rumor spread around them or threatened or told, you're no longer needed here, or you can either sign this non-disclosure agreement or you can leave quietly and this will blow over. So what you really need is someone who's outside of the system, who knows how the system works, to help you keep your sanity and keep your head on straight, and also help you maintain your dignity and your integrity and your self-respect, being able to see that what's happening is outside of you, that it's not about you, so that you can peaceably figure out how to navigate this. People want to save their jobs, but often these are jobs you want to leave ultimately. And the things you really want to look out for is that you don't leave while any kind of investigation or hearing or review or panel is happening, because you can be reported to the National Practitioner Data Bank, NPDB, which many of us don't even know anything about. I certainly didn't. But that institution, along with a bunch of congressional laws, been set up to protect patients, but ironically don't protect doctors. And so you want to be on top of what's happening to protect yourself and make sure that the way things unfold happens in a way where you won't be reported, that you can leave peaceably, that you can retain your reputation, and basically you need support. And this organization that I'm a member of, Physician Just Equity, along with the American Association of Physicians and Surgeons, which is a nonprofit, non-academic, independent support for physicians, are great resources to provide peer support in a confidential way of people outside of the people you work with.
The silencing in medicine is so rampant, and the silencing and the questioning ourselves constantly from medical education to onwards. It's this constant. And I love that you said the first thing you said was believe yourself. And to preserve your sanity, employ help from outside, somebody who knows the system and can protect you, a healthcare attorney. And recognizing that is so much. So first of all, here's what most of us do. Like you mentioned, we don't want to talk to anybody. We want to keep it quiet, as if by staying quiet, it's going to magically disappear. It's not going to happen. And then we don't protect ourselves appropriately. And one more thing, Tracey, I noticed is when the option is given to just quietly sign a non-disclosure and resign, people will just resign, as if assuming all liability of whatever's happening without any investigation or anything else.
And the thing is, you do really want to, even if the temptation is just to leave quietly and be cooperative, there are these things that you want to set in place to make sure that you are not reported. You can be reported to the National Practitioner Data Bank before, during, or after this kind of event. And you need to put into your negotiation with your lawyer. It gets me so angry. It's completely unfair that physicians have to go out of their way on their own time and dime to figure this out. There's truly no institutional support. There is no one in hospital administration or in whatever you imagine will protect you. It won't protect you. Even your incredible resume, even your incredible credentials, or wherever you've trained, or you may be fortunate. And this is how some people who have gotten to the top without this thing happening to them and then reach the top and can't believe it's now happening to them, had people all along who supported them, right? There were people that, if you're a woman, people that supported women, someone who was their mentor, someone that could help them, could stand up for them in staff meetings, could have their back. But a lot of us don't know what's happening in staff meetings, or I've even seen this happen to people who are members of the medical executive committee who felt like they were working among and were well aware of bylaws and well aware of what was okay and not okay. Other things to really be mindful of that's coming to me now, to know your bylaws. And also, we all sign when we start a new job, we think, oh, this is fine. Have a lawyer look over it. Look for the clauses could be used against you or not protect you. You want to record any and all things that happen around this. Save all emails and save them somewhere separately, because if you're not working there anymore, you won't have access to those things. Your file, your IP address, whatever, will disappear. So you want to have copies of these things elsewhere. Things are going to be based on hearsay or she said, he said. You want to have a record. If no one else has anything in writing, but you have something in writing, that's really powerful because that ends up being testimony in your own self-defense. The other things would be to not go, ironically, we either stay silent or we go to colleagues and we say, this is happening to me. And the thing is, you have no idea unless that person, we've all been in the situation where someone hears you out and says, I've got you back. And then in the meeting, they say nothing. So you cannot go with that, right? It's a lonely journey, which is why you have to have someone outside of it or someone outside of your milieu, right? Outside of the geographical location where you are. Maybe it's a friend from in another state or something like this. But again, it's sad and awful to be a professional where you can't trust anyone. I think that no one prepares us for that. It's diabolical and it makes no sense. We're in a helping profession. We're in a profession built around compassion, empathy, caring. And so I think it's super disorienting, gaslighting, confusing, and often makes us think that the problem is with us. When it's actually not, and usually has nothing to do with something that you've done. It has to do with somebody else having a reason to want you to be gone. Currently, there's this Healthcare Quality Improvement Act that was in 1986 that really was set up to protect the hospital. There is no basic standardization of peer review, and that's a real problem because hospitals can perform what they call a peer review and people can sign off on it, but it's not gone through any standardization. Basically, and unlike civil law where you're assumed innocent until proven guilty, in medical culture, you're guilty until proven innocent because this Quality Improvement Act, this HCQIA, written to protect hospitals and protect patients. It's not written to protect doctors. This is going to require truly an act of Congress because people are going to have to rewrite this act and rewrite standards for performing peer review to prevent peer review done in bad faith. And that does take a lot of labor. It's just the right thing to do ethically, morally, and within the oaths that we've taken and what we believe that we've signed up for.
Absolutely, 100%. Unbelievable that this is okay in any shape or form. And then we're going to act confused as to why physicians are suffering from moral injury and burnout. And we have those shortages that you've mentioned as well earlier in a system that consistently makes us feel disempowered. And yes, there are larger legislations that need to be changed. As we wrap up for today, Tracey, what is your biggest takeaway? Something could apply to all of us with regards to sham peer reviews.
I think the first thing is to know that this exists, to believe yourself when you think this could be happening to you, which I admit can make you feel paranoid about everyday ordinary activities, which can undermine things you're trying to already keep so many balls in the air. So it's not to make everyone listening feel freaked out, but suspect something doesn't fit, like you're being accused of something that you know can't possibly be true. Believe yourself, contact a healthcare lawyer to find out what, basically it may take some time. So you want to get on that right away to find that person who is well educated in this kind of phenomenon. Reach out to Physician Just Equity, pje.org, peer support, and people who have been through this exact thing that can help guide you with the do's and don'ts so that you're not alone and you don't question your own sanity or your own morals, ethics, North Star, moral compass. Also, there's the AAPS, the American Association of Physician and Surgeons. Lots of articles there written by a Dr. Huntoon about sham peer review so that you can look through and read my articles, obviously, to look through the typical warning signs or things to help you have a guideline to not question yourself, but know that this could be real, this is real, action steps that you can take to protect yourself. And in the meantime, obviously live by the golden rule, right? Be the kind of person that you want to be. When you make a mistake, own it. Or when you see someone else make a mistake, champion them, right? Don't be the one who lives in paranoia and wants to stay on the side. There's whistleblower retaliation and all these things that make people afraid to stand up. But as medical culture crumbles around us, like we're watching it break down. And typically before there's a breakthrough, there's a breakdown. The opportunity we have now as we rebuild medical culture into whatever we want to call it, healthcare 3.0, there are opportunities to make this better. And even if really difficult, you have to stand by your own dignity, your own integrity, what you know to be true, even when everyone around you seems to be behaving unethically, so that you can live with yourself. You can find another job. Absolutely. There's a massive physician shortage. Like, you don't have to stay in this toxic environment where you are, and make sure that your exit is careful and that you don't allow false statements to be made about you without defending yourself.
Thank you so much for sharing your absolute wisdom with us today, Tracey. This was so helpful. And I know that it's going to resonate with so many humans that don't have words to speak what they have gone through. And I really appreciate those tangible strategies that people can take to protect themselves on the way physicians can take. For those, I will put a plug in for all 4 articles on sham peer review that Dr. Tracey O'Connell has written in the Kevin MD blog. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. So please share it or like it or comment on a social media post or write us a 5-star review. Thank us again for listening to The Physician's Guide to Doctoring.